To use the words of Jamal Mosley, this Magic team has essentially played 3 seasons in one, dealing with a litany of injuries, attempting to assimilate players back into the roster. And this Magic team is not only playing in their worst stretch of the season, it is not going to get any easier moving forward, because the expectation is that in the month of March and in the month of April, you are playing your best basketball, because it is not about how you squeak into the playoffs, it's about how you streak into the playoffs. And this Magic team could not be playing worse. They're finding new ways to lose, and this Magic team has essentially fallen flat on their face. Now, I do want to share my thoughts, my opinions, and factual statements about the way that the team is performing, and also just what the body language and what the players and coaches have been saying. So I do want to preface my comments saying that yes, I'm going to give some of my reporter information about what I've seen as a reporter covering the team, but I'm also going to give some of my fandom about what I've noticed, the criticism about the team, and just the overall frustration that a lot of Magic fans are feeling. So I do want to preface that by saying you will be able to differentiate when I turn this light on and when I turn that light on. But having said that, let's actually go ahead and talk about the Magic and why it is officially time to panic with this team. Now, as it currently sits, the Magic are 29-33. They're just a half game back of that number 7 seed atop of the play-in tournament behind the Miami Heat, and just 1 game above the 9th seed in the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Magic, they have been struggling mightily. Just when you thought in the month of December, when this team was dealing with a multitude of injuries, without Paolo Banchero, without Franz Wagner, you thought that everything was just going to absolutely falter and the Magic were going to just fall flat on their face, when it was quite the opposite. This team was resilient. They found a new passion and, that next man up mentality, where we saw guys consistently stepping up night in and night out, and it resulted in dramatic fashion wins that really catapulted the Magic to the top of the Eastern Conference, where we saw comeback victories against the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, and even the Brooklyn Nets. It looked as if the way that the Magic were playing, especially with that energy level, that no matter what, once Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner got back, there was no doubt in anybody's mind that this team was going to be atop of the Eastern Conference, and it has been anything but that. Now, of course, you have to attribute some of this season's struggles to injuries. The Magic have had a total of 96 minutes combined this season with Paolo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, and Franz Wagner on the court. I get it. You are missing your big 3. They haven't played together, and they looked great early on throughout the first 5-6 games of the season before Banchero went down with that oblique injury. But having said that, injuries only get you so far, and we're going to talk about all of that here momentarily. But just sticking on the topic of just how injury-riddled the team has been, we all know Paolo Banchero missed 34 games with that oblique injury, Franz Wagner 20 games, and then Jalen Suggs has now missed an extended period of time, as he's now going to be going into surgery to remove some parts of his left knee. I don't recall exactly what the name of the surgery is, but of course, Jalen, me and every Magic fan out there are all praying for a fast and speedy recovery for you to get back out there onto the court. Now, because I talked about Jalen, that's really where I want to harp on with this part of the video, understanding the importance of Jalen Suggs and understanding that he is the most valuable player to this team. And that's not to discredit Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, or even Mo Wagner and what they bring to this team night in and night out. They're all phenomenal, talented players in their own right. But what Jalen Suggs clearly has done and shown to this team since the beginning of last season till this season is that he's the most important and the most valuable player to the success of this team. It is evident with his energy, how infectious it is, and it is a night and day difference with the way that this team continues to approach their opponents, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Now, Jalen Suggs, we know that the shooting has slipped this year, but he got thrusted into a position kind of as a number 1 option when Banchero went down, when Wagner went down, and he really helped try to prepare this team to get ready for Banchero and Wagner eventually coming back. And he kept this team afloat. It wasn't perfect. It was gritty, not pretty. I think that's the best way to describe it, and I've been harping on it for months. I truly believe that Suggs is the most important player to the success of this team. And you really just see it with Jalen, just his demeanor, the way he approaches the game, his energy levels, just how much he gets the crowd hyped up, and especially on the road, the way that he's able to keep everybody together. I think what Jalen Suggs is proving right now just by being on the bench is just how important he is to this team. Now, the last point I can talk about with Jalen Suggs is really just how evident it is with the record. Now, since January 5th, 2025, Jalen Suggs has only appeared in one game, which was the game against the Detroit Pistons back on January 25th. But since January 5th to the present day, the Magic are 8-18. 8-18 since January 5th. And then over the stretch since Jalen Suggs last played on the court against the Detroit Pistons, the Magic are 5-10 since he last played. And some of those are not notable wins. They're 5-10. Simply put it, Jalen Suggs is a huge difference maker to this team. Now, I do want to go ahead and talk about the numbers with this team, so let's go ahead and talk about it since they're all up to date. The Magic are 30th in points per game, 30th in three-point percentage, 28th in both offensive efficiency and field goal percentage. And if you go to defensively, they are number 2 in defensive efficiency, but don't let it fool you too much because since the beginning of the new year, they've slipped all the way to number 8 in defensive efficiency. And of course, a lot of that has to do with missing the head of the snake in Jalen Suggs. And then just talking about the Magic struggles in recent memory, let's just talk about how bad it's been. They are finding new ways to lose. The Magic, as of recently, they just blew a 19-point lead to the Memphis Grizzlies. They got blown out by 40-plus points at home to the Cleveland Cavaliers on national television, just to add salt to the wound. They also blew a 17-point lead to the Golden State Warriors and allowed Steph Curry to drop 56 points on 12 made three-pointers. And they just had a 19-4 run where they came back on the Toronto Raptors, all for it just to be too little too late. Franz Wagner misses the potential game-winning layup, or I guess game-tying layup, and the Magic dropped the game to the Toronto Raptors. This Magic team clearly has not been playing at an efficient level. They have their offensive struggles. The paint is clogged. The team can't shoot. Defensively, they're going to be in every game for the most part. But overall, this team is continuing to struggle, and it is very evident with their body language, the way that they come out of the locker room, especially in those third quarters, the way in which these guys are going out there and hesitant to shoot the ball. And a lot of times it's just iso ball. Guys are not moving very well, even coming off pin downs and multiple, screen actions. Guys aren't moving fluidly. They're not getting out in transition. They're the slowest paced team in the NBA. And you have one of the youngest rosters in the NBA, yet you're the slowest team in transition. The math is not adding up. There's so many different things you can point to. But now with this portion of the video, let me actually kind of get more into the reporting side and actually talk about just some quotes that really struck me yesterday evening, both in the pre- and post-game press conference with the Toronto Raptors yesterday evening before the Magic lost 104-102. Let's go over some of these quotes with you guys because I think they are damning. Now, Jamahl Mosley did talk to reporters before the game, as always, and this was about him evaluating the team's performance over their recent stretch. And I quote Jamahl Mosley, "I think it's been what our record has done, up and down a little bit because guys are still trying to find their way and what that looks like. And like you just said, the uncertainty of a guy coming back, Suggs, and coming in and out. Now that you have clarity, it's like you can have that level of consistency, knowing what's happening each and every single night when you're on the floor." Now moving into the post game, let's actually talk about what Banchero said about the Raptors' ball pressure last night and how to attack defenses when they're just clogging the paint. Here's what Banchero said. "I mean, we didn't play very well on offense, honestly, so I wouldn't really attribute it to their ball pressure. I would attribute it to, us not executing well enough." Straightforward and to the point, Banchero. Now, here's Paolo adding to that. He said, "I think you just got to put the ball in your best player's hands and live with it." And then sticking on that point with teams packing the paint, here's what Jamahl Mosley said to reporters about teams packing the paint and how that's affecting Franz and Paolo. Here's what he said. "The thing that we continue to ask is that they make the right play and the right read. I think the situations of them just being able to make the right play at the right time to keep trusting and finding their teammates." Well, clearly, it looks as if, from a third-person point of view, they're not fully trusting their teammates, right? And I'm not insinuating that Paolo and Franz don't trust their teammates. I'm not insinuating that there's this bad negative energy and charisma within the locker room. I'm just saying that Paolo and Franz are two clearly the best players on the team. They thrive when they can get downhill, get into the low block, and do their thing within 5 to 8 feet of the rim. That's just their playing style, and that's how they play. Knowing that the Magic have one of the worst shooting teams that we've seen in the last 15 years, clearly it does not look as if they are completely confident with kicking out to shooters, because their body language says so and the way that they are playing says so. But what I am saying is that the body language and the way that they're playing and the style that they're playing is telling me a lot. You might not say everything, but actions always speak louder than words, and I feel as if this is no different. And the last big thing that I really want to take away with this video before I let you guys out of here is this team could really use a combo scoring guard right now. And I don't just mean any combo scoring guard. I literally mean any combo scoring guard right now. This Magic team, for whatever reason, has really failed with their rotations as of late. Goga Bitadze looked like he's taken a step back since returning from that concussion injury. Tristan da Silva's kind of been in and out of the rotation, getting very limited minutes. Gary Harris obviously got those DNPs the last 2 nights, and now you're seeing Jett Howard go as the 6th man off the bench the last handful of games. I'm grateful that Jett Howard's getting reps. I'm grateful that Anthony Black is getting reps. I'm grateful that these young guys are getting an opportunity. But you know what they did? They put Corey Joseph in there for the last 10 minutes of the game. They went on a run, and good for Corey Joseph because he's a great guy and he's obviously a proven vet in this league for a reason. But the reason I bring up a combo scoring guard is because that role could be dedicated to a combo scoring guard who could alleviate some of that pressure off of Paolo and Franz in the absence of Jalen Suggs, or in the absence of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope not playing up to his standard to which he was brought here for, especially as a knockdown 3-point shooter. The Magic need to do everything in their willpower to produce talent around Paolo and Franz, especially floor spacing and shooting. And when I looked at the numbers this morning on Twitter, I know a lot of you guys saw my post about Keyonte George. It just reminded me, guess what the Magic did? They passed up on Keyonte George twice. 2 times. They passed up on Cam Whitmore. They passed up on a lot of great players in the draft, and they could have had that help. They could have had help at the trade deadline, but they didn't make a move. They didn't want to get squeezed at the deadline in order to help Paolo and Franz. No matter what excuses you make, my premise is that this is a result-driven, oriented league. Either you win or you lose. Either you won the championship or you lost. Either you made the playoffs or you didn't. Being conservative in sports is not going to get you far. Being a defensive-minded team in today's modern NBA, where you might have a top 5 defense, but you are historically a terrible offense, is not going to get you very far. You're going to have to make some tough choices. You're going to have to make some significant changes to this roster, and that's not what the topic of this video is, but in the near future, this team has a ton of tough decisions to make. And I'm not here to play GM. I'm not here to play head coach. I'm just here saying that I see a lot of bad things with this team. There's a lot of critiques, and there's a lot of things that need to be changed and fixed. And the Magic have a lot of work to do ahead of them. But as of right now, this team is faltering. They're slipping into the play-in tournament, and I don't think that this team is going to make the playoffs the way that they are playing. Now, if they get Jalen Suggs back, we might have a different conversation, but I'm not confident with the way that this team is playing that Atlanta or Miami would lose to us in the play-in. That's all I'm saying. But Magic fans, please let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. I know I was rambling a bit, but I wanted to be concise, I wanted to be informative, and I really wanted to be detailed about how I shared my opinion about this video. I believe it is fully time to panic. The writing has been on the wall with this team for an extended period of time. This is nothing new. I'm just now finally getting around to talking about it with you guys. But Magic fans, as always, if you guys appreciate all of the work and content that I produce here at Orlando Magic HQ, not just here on Twitter, but just in general, make sure you guys go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Magic content that we do here on YouTube. And of course, make sure you guys go ahead and follow me, Brett James, and Orlando Magic HQ on all of our socials. The link tree will be in the description down below, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. Thank you guys again for sticking around throughout today's video. We'll catch you guys next time. And as always, let's go Magic.